Amelia Earhart, a legend in flight. Introduction. The airplane bounced among the clouds. Giant black storm clouds lay ahead. The year was 1932. The airplane carried Amelia Earhart. She had been the first woman to ride in an airplane over the Atlantic Ocean. Now, if she made it, she would be the first woman to fly an airplane over the Atlantic. And she would be the first person to have crossed the Atlantic in an airplane twice. But first, she had to succeed, and the trip was dangerous. Airplanes in the 1930s were small, and they didn't have the instruments that today's pilots do. The pilot had to go by her sense of sight, keeping tight control of the airplane. The black clouds ahead were too large to fly around, so Amelia pointed the little plane right into them. Ice froze the plane's controls, sending it to a tailspin. Amelia struggled to get control. Finally, the ice melted and Amelia was able to pull the plane out of its spin. Many hours later, Amelia set the plane down in Northern Ireland. She had crossed the Atlantic Ocean in an airplane she flew herself. She had already been famous. Now she would be a legend. But Amelia Earhart would be the most remembered for something else. While trying to fly around the world, she disappeared. Winged machines. The world's first airplane flight happened in 1903. Two brothers, Wilbur and Orville Wright, successfully flew their winged machine in North Carolina. Many people thought that the idea of flying was exciting. It was also dangerous. Planes are fragile and slow. They did not fly well in bad weather, and many pilots died in crashes. By 1937, airplanes had improved a lot. Engineers designed better airplanes, but accidents still happened. Kansas youth. Anyone who knew Amelia as a child could hardly have been surprised by her later accomplishments. She was born in Kansas in 1897. She spent most of her time with her family and friends. They climbed around the banks of the Missouri River. Amelia made up games for the children to play. She and her sister were such active children that her mother made bloomers for them to wear. Unlike dresses, bloomers allowed the girls to be as active as the boys. When Amelia was 21, her family moved to California. One day, she attended an air show. The airplanes dazzled her, flying in loops and doing stunts. She knew then that she wanted to fly. With her parents' help, Amelia took piloting lessons and saved enough money to buy an airplane. Before long, she was flying in air shows herself. Time to fly. Amelia later moved to Boston and found a job at Dennison House. It was a place where people who were poor, especially children, could receive help. She loved her work there, but then the chance of a lifetime presented itself. George Putnam, a publicist, searched for a woman to be the first to ride in an airplane over the Atlantic. It was a dangerous idea. 3 women had died trying to cross the Atlantic the year before. Only men had ever crossed the Atlantic in an airplane. Anyone who would try it had to withstand danger and fatigue. George thought Amelia Earhart was perfect. She was eager to go. Amelia was just a passenger on the 1928 flight, but her life would never be the same. The first woman to cross the Atlantic made headlines around the world. After the flight, she was famous and busy writing books and giving speeches about flying. She also designed clothing and luggage for active women for herself and even helped to launch 2 airlines. Later, she married George Putnam. She also continued to fly. By the time she was 39 years old, Amelia had made every major flight there was except for one. The greatest challenge left was to fly around the world. Only one pilot ever flew around the world, but he didn't ever follow the equator, the longest and most difficult route. This was the route Amelia would fly. Would she make it? By this time, no one doubted Amelia Earhart's flying school. On May 21, 1937, she took off the navigator Fred Noonan. They went from California to Florida in a Lockheed Electra. Last flight. Amelia and Fred first stopped at the Electra in Florida. The new plane had crossed the entire North American continent. Next, they flew to South America, Africa, India, Asia, and Australia. It appeared that Amelia Earhart would once again pull off a historic flight without a hitch. On June 29, 1937, they stopped in New Guinea, just north of Australia. There they fueled the airplane and checked their maps. When they took off again, there was no hint of any trouble to come. As they flew close to Howland Island, their radio messages became odd. The U.S. Coast Guard cutter Alaska waited offshore to receive their signals and help them find the island. Those radio signals were irregular and strange. Amelia spoke a storm, yet the weather over the island was clear. More than 20 hours into the flight, Amelia's voice said, "We're running north and south." She was never heard from again. What happened to Amelia? This question is still a mystery today. The Alaska and the U.S. Navy began searching for Amelia's plane. The search continued for weeks. No sign of the plane, Amelia or Fred, was found. After a year of searching, Amelia's husband believed that she died at sea. But is that the full story? Some people think that Amelia and Fred survived an emergency landing and were picked up by a Japanese ship. Others think that Amelia landed the plane, but at a different island. There she and Fred were able to live on native foods but died of either sickness or old age. Many people believe the easiest answer is that the plane landed in the water. Perhaps Amelia and Fred drowned before they inflated their life raft. Whatever happened, there is no doubt that Amelia Earhart is one of the greatest Americans in the 20th century. She showed everyone that women didn't have to live with limits. She showed people that anyone could fly. She was a legend.